清晨的起点，
从迈开第一步开始。
新闻为你走在最前线，
财经洞悉商机赚大钱，
问政民生摆在最优先，
不慌不忙，踏出稳健的步伐。
CITYPlus 城市向前行。
本单元是由 U-Mobile 为你呈现，每天释放无限的潜能。
我们都要注意自己的健康安全呢，确保自己呢不会染上任何的疾病。不管是现在我们都知道的这个新型冠状病毒以外呢，其实还有很多的一些常见的癌症，比如说在马来西亚男性的杀手呢，就是我们熟知的这个前列腺癌了。它可能对于很多的男性来说是非常的普及化，而且并不会有太大的风险，但是它毕竟还是一个疾病，是我们需要关注一下的。
没错，甚至是被称为这个沉默杀手啊，有大概60%的这个前列腺癌患者呢，当他们发现自己的状况的时候呢，其实已经是进入到晚期了。今天呢，我们在城市生活家的这个重点单元当中，主要呢就是希望说可以透过 #OnlyManCan， 也就是 只有男性可以的这个运动呢，希望说是可以提高民众对于前列腺健康的一个认识，只要越早发现，就能够越早治愈。
优化城市的质感，深化生活的质量。城市生活家。
今天我来到我们城市生活家的这位嘉宾呢，很特别，他其实有一个身份的。如果你是有关注时事动态的话呢，可能对他有一定的熟悉度。We have Datuk Seri Nazir Razak on our show. Hello,
Datuk Seri.
Hello, 你好。
哇OK, so 我们今天会从Datuk Seri 的身上呢去了解一下这个疾病之余，他们也会有一个所谓的 campaign 去让大家知道说这个疾病更多的这个详情。So Datuk Seri Nazir Razak, I think we have to let our listeners to know about some background of you. So what we know is you are the former CIMB Bank chairman and also former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib brother.So I think it's not easy for someone like you to involve in this kind of campaign when people know that you have such background. But I think they really interested to know that how's your life before your retirement and after retirement. So can you share more about it?
How's your daily routine?
Yep.
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. And I would like to say that actually it's not easy for anyone.To talk about a personal medical trauma
Yes.
like this. But, you know, I think for the reasons you mentioned, I have the opportunity to be, you know, heard by a wider audience. So when I thought about it, I felt that, you know, I have an obligation. I survived this trauma and I have an obligation to use whatever I have in order to help others to be able to do the same.So that's why I'm doing this. My background is, you know, I've been a banker for most of my life. You know, I studied in the UK in 1989. I joined CIMB and I stayed there for 29 plus years. Actually as a junior officer. Then in 1999, after 10 years, I became CEO and I remained CEO for 15 years.And then chairman for 4 years, and I retired in 2018. When I reflect on my illness, I do think that, you know, those years of very, very long hours, extreme hard work, and may have contributed to the early onset of this disease, perhaps. I think that I didn't. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work. I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard, but I think you need to have balance. And I wasn't so good at spending time on my health or doing exercise. You know, I was working round the clock, and even when I was at home, my mind was still in the office. And I was quite a hard driver those days. I mean, when staff used to go, when I bumped the staff going home at 6 o'clock, I would ask them whether it was a half day. And I think, that kind of approach to work may have taken its toll. Yeah. So, that background, from that, I just advise people who are still in the thick of their young working life to remember to be more balanced.
I think this kind of topic is not being discussed in our society, and probably from your very personal experience, probably you can share more about how common is it actually for men to contract such illness, which is the prostate cancer. Like, is it true that probably when the age is getting more old, then certain men can contract, the risk is higher for them to have prostate cancer? Datuk Seri?
Yeah, so firstly, Malaysia, we don't do enough testing on prostate cancer, so we don't really know the real data. And even when you look at, when you consider the number of prostate cancer cases, it's definitely understating it, because when prostate cancer spreads, it morphs into other types of cancer, right?
Yeah.
So people who die of lung cancer or something may actually have started in the prostate. But the data from the US suggests that 1 in 9 men will actually contract prostate cancer in their lifetime. Yeah, so you take a rough guess, I would say that 10% of men will get it in their lifetime. But some of them are quite benign. I mean, some people get prostate cancer and the doctor or the surgeon will just tell you, say, look, let's just monitor it. You don't really have to do anything about it. Whereas if it's more aggressive and the risk of spreading is there, then treatment is sought.
是，确实就好像Datuk Seri刚刚讲的，我们其实对于这个疾病，也不能说完全不了解，只是因为它可能真的是那个风险不太大的情况底下，大家会忽略掉这个疾病的一些威胁性。所以我们今天就透过城市生活家呢，可能也从Datuk Seri的口中大概的去聊一下，到底在我们繁忙的这个步伐的生活里头，我们要怎么样去找寻一些平衡的管道，或者是说，万一你身边真的是有一些朋友不幸感染了这个前列腺癌的话，到底要怎么做？
是，我们先休息一下，待会儿呢，我们回来会稍微的聊一聊。那Datuk Seri本身的这一个经验是如何呢？他到底自己本身是怎么发现这个疾病的呢？
欢迎回到节目当中，由优摸报为你呈现，激发你无限的潜能。
今天我们在城市生活家当中呢，希望透过一小小的单元，也有这些亲生朋友的经历呢，来提醒更多的男性朋友了解这个前列腺癌哦，因为它看似是没有什么，但是如果深入的去了解的话呢，我们还是觉得有一些事情是需要更多人去知道，了解一下自己的健康的。那我们今天在现场呢，就有Datuk Seri Nazir Razak，那他自己本身也对于这个疾病呢有一定的了解，我觉得也可以问一下他自己本身的一些症状吧，就是Datuk Seri, is there any symptom that you found out during your daily life before you getting know about this cancer? Any symptom that you found, maybe when you pee, is it will feel pain or hot? Is there any symptom that we can find out?
Yeah, or there is totally no symptoms until you get tested.
So, Carmen, the typical symptoms are, changing urinary patterns. So people tend to suddenly have to go to the toilet more frequently during nighttime. That's one symptom. 2 is when they have, sexual problems. Yeah, those are the 2 main symptoms of prostate cancer. And people who have any of that should immediately get checked out. In my case, it was a little bit more scary because there were absolutely no symptoms. Yeah, I discovered my prostate cancer by pure luck, simply because my wealth advisors at CIMB suggested I buy an life insurance product. And I thought it was an attractive product. And then they said, so I agreed. And then they said, you just need to do a medical test. I happened to be in London, so I did my medical test there. And then they discovered that my PSA reading as part of the blood test was high. PSA actually means prostate specific antigen, and that is the kind of marker for prostate cancer. So it said it's rather high, so you might have prostate cancer, so we need to do further tests. So that's how I discovered it. And just to add to that, eventually a couple of months later, I went for surgery. 2 days before the surgery, I was in the Alps skiing, right? That's how well I was. I actually had no symptoms whatsoever.
Okay, so can you share more about the treatment process? Is it very suffering? Because from some other articles that we have read, you have went through 5 to 6 months of treatment.
No, the whole what happens is that the doctor will diagnose the cancer and then recommend treatment. Different people, different stages will be subject to different type of treatment. In my case, unfortunately, they discovered that the cancer was actually very aggressive. They have this thing called a Gleason score, which then rates the cancer from 1 to 10 in terms of how aggressive. Mine was 9. When I say aggressive, what does it mean? It means that when it's aggressive, the chances of the cancer spreading beyond the prostate is high.
Yeah.
So the doctor said, look, we can't wait around. We must go in and remove the prostate as soon as possible. Yeah, so I went, I agreed, and we had the surgery, and it took in total about 5 to 6 months to get back to normal. Obviously in that recovery process, the first 1 to 2 weeks is the most difficult when essentially you're kind of lying down and not able to do very much. And then it's kind of progressive recovery.
So after the treatment, how was your condition right now? Is it back to just normal life, and then there is no chance for getting another prostate cancer? Is there something like that?
Well, I am lucky because I would say I had complete recovery. The likelihood of getting prostate cancer is nil because they have removed the prostate. However, there is the risk is that maybe it spread beyond the prostate without them being able to detect it, which is unlikely, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
Having been through cancer, I'm also, wary that I should always test all types of cancer and you really want to detect it early. The most crucial thing about any disease or whatever is to get detected early, because when it's detected early, the chances of being able to recover is highest.
Okay, so from what you observe, is it that most people who get this disease, the cancer, the prostate cancer, they can recover fully, or maybe some of them, until the entire of their life, they still having this disease?
So the statistics is like this. In Malaysia, 60% of people discover prostate cancer at an advanced stage. Yeah. When you discover it in an advanced stage, the chances of survival is relatively low, about 20%. If you discover it early, the chances of recovery is very high at 90%. Yeah. So the trick with prostate cancer, if you like, is to discover it early, to detect it early. That is the most crucial thing. So international standards in more developed countries, the percentage of people who discover prostate cancer at an advanced stage is only 20 to 25%. Malaysia is 60%. So my agenda is to bring the 60% number to say about 30% in 5 years. I've stated that as a target of this campaign that I'm spearheading.
So what are your advice for all the men out there, or even women, to take care of their husbands and their partners?
Family, friends.
Yeah. So should they get tested like yearly?
So everyone should listen, because a lot of men have these kind of symptoms, don't want to talk about it, are embarrassed, don't want to get checked. Yeah. So, and it's not just the men, it's their partners, their children, etc. must berate men to get checked out. Men, the advice is that men over 50 should get checked up annually to have their PSA tests annually. If you're below 50, then the advice is that you should get checked up if you have symptoms.
All right.
And there's also probably an addition that if you have a history of prostate cancer in the family, then it's probably good advice to maybe start annual checkups a bit earlier.
所以等一下回来呢，我们再请Datuk Seri来说一下。毕竟我其实很好奇的是，这个疾病除了是当事人涉及以外，它会不会影响着身边周遭的人？比如说你的父亲是有这个疾病的话，那会不会有遗传？我觉得这个问题等一下我们也可以好好的跟Datuk Seri来讨论一下。继续留守 CITYPlus FM 的城市生活家。
欢迎回到节目当中，由 U Mobile 为你呈现，激发你无限的潜能。
欢迎你回来城市生活家。今天我们关注的是男性的头号杀手的疾病，也就是前列腺癌了。其实刚刚我们从Datuk Seri的身上也大概知道说，这个风险就是你越早发现的话呢，它可能治愈的这个机会是越高的，就跟一般的癌症是一样的。如果你去到末期的话，可能它的这个治愈的能力，就是说那个时长会比较多，而且这个几率好转的几率也比较小了一点点。但是会不会有一种现象，就是我们比如说上一辈，像家里可能你的爸爸、你的父亲，或者是你的爷爷还是什么的，都有这个疾病的同时，会不会遗传到小朋友的身上，就是下一代的身上呢？这个是我很好奇的问题。
Yeah, so Dr. Seri, can you explain more about this part, which is can you inherit this kind of cancer from your parents? Is it genetically can be transferred to your younger generations?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but from what I read, it's a probability thing that if your parents or your father had prostate cancer, the chances of you having it is higher. And that's what I mentioned. You should get more tested. The causes of cancer are not well understood, as you know, and so it's a play on. The best play is basically to look at the statistics. I mean, incidentally, prostate cancer. The highest incidence ethnic from a racial perspective is amongst the Chinese, the Chinese men, which is actually why, despite not being able to understand Mandarin, I'm insisting on coming on this program because I do want to communicate to the most vulnerable group, which is the Chinese male.
Okay.
All right. So if your suggestion is that men should get tested very frequently, is there anything that we can do to improve our lifestyle? Because probably lifestyle is also one of the things that contribute to this kind of cancer. Like any advice from your side, Datuk Seri?
Yeah, well, as I said, I personally believe it's to do with stress, too much stress. So don't avoid having too much stress. As I said, you can work hard, but when you have your rest, have proper rest. Don't bring work home.
All right.
All the time. And then diet is important.
Okay.
And of course, don't smoke, they say. One of the first things I did when I was told I had prostate cancer was to stop smoking immediately. And my years and years of smoking may well have contributed to this as well.
Okay, Datuk Seri, I do heard from some other people that they share to me, to prevent this prostate cancer, maybe you have, you cannot, you have to balance your sexual life. You cannot have it frequently, or when you go to pee, don't try to
squeeze it.
Yeah, if you want to pee, just go to pee. Don't try to you want to stop it or what. Is it the way that you can prevent the prostate cancer?
Well, if you talk to Dr. George Lee, as you know, G on the spot, he will actually tell you more sex is better for prostate cancer.
Oh,
okay, all right.
All right.
It's not very clear, but certainly, a good advice is if you need to pee, go and pee. Right?
Yeah.
Don't think it's good advice to hold pee back. But in terms of sexual activity, I think more likely the urologist will tell you have more sex rather than less.
Okay. So is there any advice that you can give to women too? Because as I am a woman, so when I know that my families, my friends, or maybe my husband, my boyfriend, when they are getting this disease, so what role that women can play in order to help them?
Well, two things. One is support. I mean, if they have this, one is, if they have any symptoms, push them to get checked out.
All right.
As I said earlier, the key to this is early detection. If they're confirmed to have prostate cancer, then it's about support. There's a saying that if God allowed us to choose a cancer, we should choose prostate cancer because you can deal with it decisively. Unless it's come out of the prostate, right? Unless it's spread, right? You don't need to do chemotherapy, which is very draining physically and so on and so forth. So you can kind of deal with it decisively by just removing the prostate. Yeah. And if you don't, then radiotherapy, some people do, which actually can also deal with it quite effectively. So that's the thing about prostate cancer. And so my view is that today, based on the stats I told you earlier, too many men die or suffer than necessary simply because of a lack of awareness and too much shyness in talking about it. It's in a sensitive place. So people who you pee too often, or you can't get an erection, you get too shy, you don't want to talk about it. Yeah, and then by the time you build up the courage to talk about it, it's too late. The thing has spread. As soon as you have any risk of prostate cancer, you should get it checked.
Yeah, and the illness and this kind of disease, it's actually very easily treatable and very easily tackled. So I think all the men who listen to our program out there should do something about it and go check yourself, and probably all those elderly people who is age above or 50, then should get tested.
When mentioning about the medical checkup, I also curious that the procedure, the duration of taking the checkup, is it very hard or is it take a long time for men to do this?
Normal blood test, and you can get it within 24 hours, right?
All right. Okay.
Almost all private hospitals have it. Government hospitals, only the ones with urologists. So, there's a whole other exercise that I'm working on together with University Malaya, which is to help train doctors about the latest advice on prostate cancer, because we don't have enough specialists or urologists in Malaysia. Singapore has one for every 50,000. We have one for every 250,000. So we need to train more doctors to understand this and give proper advice. So that's another exercise I'm working on.
Okay, so actually this campaign will be a 5-year campaign, which is #OnlyMenCan. It will be led by Datuk Seri and also from UM Medical Faculty Dean, which is Professor Dr. Adiba. So can Datuk Seri, you share more about this 5-year program? Is there any activities that probably we can expect from this campaign?
Well, certainly, we will, every November, we will have an intense campaign in line with the Men's Health Month. We will have intense campaign on prostate cancer. That's one thing we will definitely do. Two, as I mentioned, is we will we'll have training programs for general practitioners. And then beyond that, of course, there are lots of things we want to do, like get free testing for underprivileged men and so on and so forth. But it kind of depends on budget. So far, I've raised sufficient funds to do this 5-year campaign of awareness and training doctors. If I can raise more, then I will do a lot more. But all in the context of within 5 years, I would love to bring down that 60% target that I mentioned to 30%.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for your effort, Datuk Seri. I think it is a must for Malaysian to do something on knowing, this disease, because really not many people that they're really willing to share their knowledge or maybe their problem about the prostate disease， 我觉得这个是一个很好的方案，来让大家知道更多有关于现在这个前列腺癌它的趋势，还有更多马来西亚的朋友，不管是前线人员也好，还是 Datuk Seri， 其实他们都做了很多的努力来帮助大家解决这方面的问题，千万不要因为它是涉及到男性的敏感部位，完全不要去谈。尤其是我们一直提到说性教育或者是跟性有关系的这些课题，越早知道详情其实是越好的。
是，而且我也觉得说，就是像Datuk Seri刚刚所说的，其实这个疾病呢，它是非常容易治愈，而且它是非常容易发现的。所以如果我们要解决它的话呢，有很多方面其实都可以去做，包括就是要提高大家的意识啊，还有我们的这个卫生水平也要提高，所以这些部分都是我们可以去做到的。所以就希望说，如果你是听到我们的今天的节目的话呢，一定要把我们的这个意识给传达出去，那就造福我们身边的男性吧。
是，也要特别留意这个5年的活动，就是这个 campaign #OnlyMenCan。Thank you so much, Datuk Seri.
Thank you.
Thank you.